So Guidance Rubrics is made for grading and maybe doing some education research with LLMs. But before you get into all that, maybe you just want to experiment with it and see how LLMs work for grading and just play with the Guidance Rubric system. So this video is going to talk about that. So the first step is to go into Canvas and make a quiz for experimenting. This system is integrated with Canvas, so currently the only way to really use it is through Canvas. So the first step is to make a quiz. Then we're going to log on into Guidance Rubrics and get some things configured there. Then we need to enable this quiz for auto grading. Then we're going to just create our own submissions for that quiz. Then we'll test some rubric elements for this quiz. Then we'll build a full-on rubric and then look at the results. So the first step is to build a quiz in Canvas. So I'm going to use a class from a previous semester. And I'm just going to go to the quizzes and make a new quiz. Classic quiz. I'll just call it test. And now for the question, I'm going to make a new question. For the question, I'm going to take a question from a previous semester. You can do this way. I could, if I wanted, I could paste in student submissions from previous semesters and test it with that. Has to be an essay question. This is only useful for grading essay questions. Save this question, and then we'll save the quiz. We won't publish it. We're just going to save it so we can use it for experimenting. Okay, now we can go and log into the app. So when you go to the app, it should look like this. And you have the help topics here. You can expand this to look at different videos and information. But we're going to sign in. Anybody can sign in. You don't need to pay anything or anything. You just need to sign in. You do need to have a Gmail account. It takes a few seconds to load. And I'm going to use my school account. You don't need to use a school account. Any Gmail account is fine. Okay, so now we're logged in, and it's saying that there's no courses because we have not yet set our Canvas token ID. So that's the first thing we need to do. We need to go back to Canvas and get our token. So we click on Account, it's in the upper left-hand corner here, and then click on Settings. Scroll down, Approved Integrations, and then New access token. Just put some text there. Something maybe. Oops. And you can do expiration date very soon if you're worried about information. I'll put it just for tomorrow. That way this token is not a secret because it will be expired tomorrow. In any case, you copy this token and go back to the app and paste it here, Canvas access token, and save that. Go back to Canvas, and we need to get the name of the server, this part up here. So in my case, it's udel.infrastructure.com. Yours might be different. And paste that here. Okay, now we can validate this one. Now we're validating, it's going to, oh, I didn't save something. I didn't save this. Save that. Now we can validate it. Good. Okay, when it's validating, it's actually getting all of the courses that you've taught. So it takes some time, maybe even a couple minutes. So I'm going to pause the recording until it's completed. Okay, it completed, and it says my Canvas API key is valid. Now that I've entered that, I need to reload the courses. So I'll put a reload here. Again, this takes a few minutes, not quite as long as the other one, but it does take a minute or so. Okay, now it's telling us we need to select our course. You need to select some course that you're going to do all these operations with. So I'm going to select the course I made that quiz with from last fall. Right here, this one. Okay, this is the course that's selected. Now all of these things over here are going to be in reference to this course. Here it's saying that we have not specified an OpenAI API key, which is correct. We haven't set it, but we can use the default key, and we have a limited number of prompts that we can run with that. It's not so limited, but if you're teaching a large class, you would probably have to enter in your own key there. But for now, we're going to use the default key. Okay, so we made this quiz. We need to mark this quiz as something we want the auto grader to grade. So we'll open Manage Questions. Open that in a new tab. And select this quiz we just made. And it lists all the questions here. There's only one question. And now we have to mark that as we want it to be auto-graded. Okay, now we're going to create submissions for this quiz. Select this quiz. Select the question. So we can cut and paste submissions here, or we can use ChatGPT to build a submission for us. Let's do that. This is the question text, and then we put here, consider the question, and then it says, answer the above question in this way. Okay, this is what ChatGPT came up with. This is a correct answer. I'm going to upload this one so we can use it for testing. And there it is. Now I'm going to ask it to provide an incorrect answer. Provide correctly an incorrect answer to the above question. All right, generate that. Yep, that's the incorrect submission. So I will save that one. Now I'm going to manually enter one. This is a slightly tricky one because the correct answer is the software needs to be changed in the sender and receiver, but here it's saying it needs to be changed in other places too. So that is actually incorrect. So upload this submission. Okay, so now we see we have 3 submissions uploaded that now we can play with. So let's go into student submissions, and we can play with that and make some rubric elements. Okay, here we're just going to test with these manually created submissions. Pick the quiz, pick the question. Okay, so here are the submissions that we made, and here is a example prompt. We could do other prompt formats, but we're just going to do this basic, the query type. And here's the rough idea. So this is a more appropriate thing. So we're asking the LM, does the statement below, that's going to be the submission, mention that the software needs to be changed in the sender and receiver. Now, hopefully the LLM is going to answer yes or no, but sometimes it answers something slightly different. In that case, we have to ask it a follow-up prompt. So here's the follow-up prompt, which is explicitly saying, please answer yes or no. And so we need to fill this out. Either answer yes, the statement does mention that the software needs to be changed, or no, it does not mention that the software needs to be changed in the sender and receiver. Okay, let's test this. Okay, it came with an answer correct. Let's scroll up a little bit. And we can drill down and see exactly what happened. This was the prompt that was sent to the LLM, and this is the answer we got. Let's try another submission. Okay, here it also answered yes, it's true. This submission did say software needs to be changed in the sender and receiver, but it mentions this extra stuff too. But it did answer it correctly here. Let's try that. The other submission. And there the answer is no. It did not mention the sender and receiver, right? So no mentions the receiver, but it only mentions the sender, not the receiver. Okay, this is working sort of, except for that it didn't work very well on this one because it gave this part, which is not correct. So we need to make a different rubric element for that. Let's look at rubrics for a bit. So this is what we have so far. That does a statement mention that the software needs to be changed in the sender and receiver. But we need to do more than that. So what we're going to do is an and. So we want a correct answer. Well, the LM will answer yes to both of these. Right? The statement does mention the software needs to be changed in the sender receiver, and it mentions that it doesn't need to be changed in other locations. This actually isn't so good. We don't really need the student submission to say that the software doesn't need to be changed in other locations. Just wanted to not mention that. So maybe we should say does the statement not mention that the software needs to be changed in other locations? That's sort of a weird question. So instead, we'll say, does the statement mention that the software needs to be changed in other locations? And ideally, the answer we're going to get from LM is no. So the student will get full credit if the LM returns yes for this and no for this. Let's try some rubric elements like that. Okay, so here the initial prompt is going to be this. So while the statement below might mention the software needs to be changed in the sender receiver, does the statement also mention the software needs to be changed in other locations? And we will, for the follow-up prompt, just put part of it here. There. Okay, let's test this one. Okay, so yes, the LM correctly identified that this statement is saying the software needs to be changed in other locations. Let's check the other ones. The answer is no here, and okay, also no here. Okay, so this rubric element is behaving correctly. Now we can make a full-on rubric for this question. Okay, we're in the rubric editor. Let's select the quiz, select the question, and now there's no components. Let's add a component, and let's open this one so we can see what we have here. So here's where these rubric elements are going to be, and this is an or. I need it to be an and, right? We need both of those things to be answered correctly. So I'm going to call this an and then delete this, and then add something here. Okay, so we have these these should be queries. So we have these two things, this one and this one. There's an or here, but it's the or of this whole thing, or of only one thing. So it really doesn't do much. So we have this, and this has to be true. So this one is our first one. So we'll put this prompt, which we tested, it seems to work well, and then we need a follow-up prompt. Get it to answer yes or no. Okay, so that's that one. And for this one, we can go back and we can get the prompt that we tested. Oops, it goes here. And get the follow-up prompt that we tested. Although we didn't And these, it didn't have to use a follow-up prompt. Okay, but this one we're looking for the answer to be no, so we click here, and this rubric element must not be satisfied. All right, so there's our rubric. So we have, in order to get full credit, this must be answered yes, and this must be answered no. Now we want to put some component description and component hint. So for the description, put this. This is sort of what this component is trying to do. And for the hint, I guess we can give the hint as the same thing. Please see chapter 1 for details. Oops. So this is the hint that will be given if they get this wrong. Okay, this rubric is ready to go. Let's save the component. And let's make this rubric just for testing. So it won't have any impact on Canvas at all. It just pulls the submissions. Well, if there were submissions for this quiz, it would pull the submissions and grade and produce grades, but those grades wouldn't be saved onto Canvas. This is just for testing. And then save this rubric. Always save things to a new version. And now we deploy it. So now it's deployed, so now the backend servers are going to process these submissions in this rubric and produce grades. That will take a few minutes depending upon what else the servers are doing, if they're grading other assignments. So in a few minutes we can come back and we can look at the student submissions. I'll pause the recording until it's completed. Okay, it's completed, so we can go into student submissions, open it in a new tab. And now we're going to view all submissions. Before we were working just with playing around with this created submissions, but now we're going to view all submissions. Working with this test quiz we made and the single question we made for that. We've only have one version of the rubric so far, so there's no options there. If we had multiple versions, maybe multiple for testing, we could try and compare the different versions here. Let's take a look at this, what happened with the students. Let's take a look at the first submission. Right, this one, it should be incorrect, and indeed it's the grade was 0. We can drill down and look at the results here. So this is an and, so they got 0 points for this one, so there's no need to evaluate the second one. We can look at the comment given to the student. It says please try again, and then here is the hint. This is the hint that we had set up right here. We can look at a different submission. This one they got 100%, and again we can drill down to see exactly what the LLMs were saying. Here's what we submitted, and here's what the LLM responded. And here's the answer. Here's what this is a comment to the student, correct? And it says your answer correctly addressed. Then this text here is this component. If this question had multiple components, it would say, look, you answered this part right, and then maybe give you a hint for the second component. So the student would be able to understand which parts that are getting correct, which parts are getting wrong. And let's look at the final one. This is the one that was a little bit tricky because it correctly identified the software needs to be changed in the sender and receiver, but then incorrectly specified that it needs to be changed in other locations too. Indeed, they got 0 points. Drilling down, we see that they got full points for the first part, so they did correctly identify and send and receiver, but they incorrectly mentioned that it needs to be changed in other locations, so they got 0 points. Again, we can drill down and look at that, and you can see they answered yes, the LM answered yes, but it should be no. And here is the comment to the student. If you have any questions, if you mouse over this question mark, it has my email.